Hi guys, and welcome back to the BFT series on the couch. If you're new here, I'm Amber of Black Female Therapists, where we promote mental health and wellness and discuss all that goodness in between, as well as promoting Black therapists. On this week's series, we're discussing depression versus sadness. So if you've ever been confused about which one are you, or what you're experiencing, or what should you do next, if you're not really sure which one you are, or you just struggled with depression and even understanding what it is, we're going to discuss that in this series. I have two wonderful therapists with me, and I know that you're going to enjoy this. Any questions that you have, pop them into the comments. We're going to make sure that we check them and try to respond to as many as possible. Of course, we probably can't get to everything, but we will definitely try. So without me continuing to ramble on, let's get into our chat with our two therapists talking about depression versus sadness. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining me today. I think everybody is going to get a kick out of this series because this is something that is near and dear to my heart, and I'm sure to you guys as well, as mental health is clearly the field that we are all in, and we're trying to promote it and break this stigma. And I know one way to break the stigma on anything that we're doing is to talk about it more and to start having more of an open space about it. So I'm like, why not just get the ladies together and let's start talking about these things, and just start talking about our own experiences as women, as individuals, as humans, and as therapists. Like, how does that work? So I have Brandi here with me today, as well as DeAvila, and I will let you guys do your own introductions. And Brandi, since you're up higher on my screen now, we can start with you.
Okay, sure. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Brandi Jackson of Brandi Jackson Wellness. I'm a mental health therapist, a holistic therapist, in fact, where I work with clients primarily around anxiety and depression treatment through movement, through nutritional health and self-care practice. So I love to support folks kind of going through depression symptoms potentially by doing different styles of approach that can feel at times more tangible. So I like to support my clients in that way, and I've been doing the work for a long time, and I really enjoy it. I enjoy these conversations, so I'm glad to be here.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, DeAvila, your go.
All right, I am DeAvila 𝐥𝐤𝐤 of 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐤. I'm a millennial mental health therapist, as well as a licensed clinical social worker, located in Memphis, Tennessee. I have my own private practice where I see clients that are struggling with anxiety, depression, grief, and trauma. My goal is to connect the mental health with the millennial generation, and also destigmatizing what mental health means in the African American community. So I'm super excited to be a part of this conversation.
Yeah, I think this is a really good topic because I seem to kind of get it all the time, right? Or I hear it a lot. A lot of clients or even my friends or family will say, I'm depressed during this time. And then we'll kind of talk about what that means. What is depression? What is sadness? Kind of what did you experience, and how are you really feeling? Let's start there. Have you guys ever had a time where you maybe felt like you were depressed, or you were struggling with trying to decide, is this depression or is this sadness, or just not quite sure how, or what you were feeling?
Yeah. Can I just also, I want to, if I could, just step back. What you said stood out to me a moment ago is that you have friends or family members who say, I am depressed. I have that now, but in my experience growing up, I never heard that. Wow. So I would see signs of depression around me, or even experience it myself, and not have the words or the identification process to be like, oh, maybe this person is going through something that could be depression. So that just kind of made me think about my own upbringing of seeing it without having folks verbalize it.
I think that's important too, to kind of, even like you said, you didn't even know that even terminology of, oh, that's kind of what I'm feeling, like depression, I think. And that's maybe even in the whole other topic to talk about, being able for our children, our future generation, to know those terms and to start talking about it early, as opposed to talking about it months, years later, and we don't even know kind of what we're going through or what we're experiencing, or even to quote unquote normalize it.
I agree totally with that, because it's like my mom would often say things that I just didn't know was correlated to depression. That's another thing. We don't talk about it, like how it passes from generation to generation. So when it hit me in undergrad, I didn't know what it was. I'm like, listen, I'm struggling with school. Love life is a mess. Like, not wanting to go to class. Like, I literally had to retake classes because I just wasn't going, and not being able to correlate that with depression. So really about understanding what it is, what those symptoms look like. And of course, it looks different in the African American community than it might look in another ethnicity.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's a really good thing. I think I also kind of had some of that too, that difficulty concentrating, right, while you're in school. That's something that you possibly don't even think about for depression, right? Society or images on TV or in the media shows that you're just laying in the bed and you're like crying all the time or whatever. But actually it's a lot of other things. Like I said, loss of concentration, maybe gaining a lot of weight or losing a lot of weight, just loss of interest, period. Things that you kind of don't even know, that you may be experiencing. I know in children, they can lash out and you start to see a change even in their behavior, right? Mm-hmm. And they don't even know it. But I think that's definitely something that we need to talk about a little bit more. So what is the difference between depression and sadness? How do I know what I'm experiencing?
With sadness, one, we have to be okay with normalizing that everybody has feelings and everyone exhibits like feelings. You can look at a feelings chart and see that we all exhibit these feelings. So you can get sad because maybe you lost your pencil or your dog ran away or something. When symptoms are lasting longer, they say a minimum of 2 weeks, and you meet this certain criteria, like you said, we're losing interest in things that we used to love. We are either oversleeping or not sleeping at all, overeating. You can also be having crying spells when you're having these symptoms for like a minimum of 2 weeks, and that can go into clinical depression or major depressive disorder. So it's really kind of seeing how long are these symptoms lasting and what all is attributing to it.
That stands out to me too, because automatically I find like question mark situational depression first. Like whenever there's an experience of sadness, like is this something that is impacting your life? Like is there events impacting your life specifically that are bringing on a sensation of feeling stuck? A lot of my clients over the years have described in one way or another experiencing being on an island that they just can't get off of. It makes me think of situational depression in a way of like life happening without having the tools or the access to change what feels ideal potentially or what would help. So I find it to be like, first, let's look at what events are occurring in your life. What are your stressors? What are the events? And then of course, the timeline of like, how long have you been in this experience? Of course, what other, like, I can't think of the word I'm looking for right now, but like what other factors might be in the peripheral, if I can say it. But like, what else is like circulating further back? Because there's usually some information or data there that is relevant, but not necessarily easy to connect as well.
I agree with that. And then kind of like you said, looking at that, but us transitioning into these winter months, right? Mm-hmm. Where, oh my God, I know I'm at my computer, just working away, and here it is 3:30 and I see the sun going out. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I have so much work left to do. But after, it starts shifting outside, your mood starts shifting. And then I don't have as much energy as I had when the sun was out, right? So then I'm feeling like, should I be cutting off now or should I keep going? But it's only 4:00, and being, and starting to experience that also in a shift. Like, are you guys experiencing that as well?
Oh yes.
Seasonal affective disorder is something serious.
Yeah, it's happening, and I don't know. I mean, I find like who is this not happening for? Honestly, like who is this not experiencing seasonal affective disorder on some level? Because we all have to deal with the sun setting potentially at 4 p.m. So like nobody's free of this, and I hopefully this feels normalizing, because I mean we're all in this, we're all experiencing this, and we're all trying to do our best with it. However that happens to look will vary, but there's ideally, like over the years as a therapist, I've definitely been compiling tools to support this unique experience of the seasons changing, to create like our internal system of, the factors we can control. So like we don't get extra light outside, where are the, indoor lights? How are we setting up different just to like manage the season too?
Have you guys tried changing your light bulbs in the house?
I haven't, but I heard light therapy is like super effective because it helps release like serotonin and it helps make you feel better. So your brain is tricked to believing that it's more light than it is. And I love it. But I want to try that one day for sure. Heading to Home Depot.
Amazon too has big lights. So that could be something. And I definitely have one. Mine is currently in storage. So I need to get it together and like collect my light system. But when I did use it, it worked really well. And I used to use it in my office too, just because my lighting was poor. So like I was living it up with all the extra vitamin D. But yeah, definitely.
Brandi, here's a good question for you. Let's say I haven't had any issues before with depression. Let's just say I'm using it loosely. Now that the season is starting to change, I am starting to have more feelings of just sadness or lacking energy or lower self-esteem. That vitamin D piece, if I'm not taking vitamin D, should I start taking it now, or would that be okay?
Well, yes, and I'll put it like that. So like, of course, a D3 supplement is ideal during the winter months. And of course, we're also unique in our body chemistry. It's still reasonable to check in with your primary care so they can support proper dosing, because if you take too much, it may not be as useful, because ideally, if you over consume, it's just gonna like run through, like your body will process it and just push it back out, like expel it, I guess we'll say, to keep it PG. But basically, I think it would be a good idea because, we can do our indoor light system, but supplementing either with like food or also with supplements can help. I am struggling to remember the specific foods that are maybe as ideal, but I can definitely provide those in case you want them for your description.
Now, what are we thinking about? Because we're all still in a pandemic, okay? How many months in?
Gosh.
Pandemic. Okay. So we're still dealing with that now, and you also want to take out sunlight too? Like, come on. Work with it. How are we processing that? Like dealing with not only a pandemic, but then the season changing, and then possibly dealing with some grief that you might be experiencing. You may have lost a loved one during this time. You may have broken up during this time. Some people are like, look, I cannot be with you this time on end. So what are we doing? What are we thinking about that? Are you guys seeing that in your clients?
Yeah, a lot of my clients have maybe experienced losing a parent, and so like the holidays might be rough for them, or just in general, this pandemic has just really isolated a lot of people. So one thing I start off by saying is we have to check in with ourselves. Like we have to, because you are with you the most. So being able to even write that, like stop, pause, and write down what is it that's bothering me, or saying it out loud. Like, okay, I know my mood is changing. What is it? Being able to like track it. What time of day is it happening? What is happening in the environment that's triggering? Like literally keeping a log so you can at least be aware of what is happening. So if you're able to check in yourself, you can start like creating like a self-care routine. And I always tell my clients, do something daily, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly. Like have something in each of those. So you're making sure you're constantly pouring into yourself. Exercise. You need to be out, exercise, or doing something at home. Something that's gonna, again, help release that serotonin. I know it's cold outside, bundle up, maybe go to Planet Fitness, whatever you want to do, but just make sure you're working out, making sure you're getting, like doing rhythmic things. So that can be really helpful.
You're right. And I love that you're also LCSW, because I relate to like, let's get the tools together. Let's have a plan.
Resources
galore. So like, I hear you and I feel you on that too. And of course, I would say a similar approach, and maybe it's because a similar background means a similar perspective, but I definitely work with my clients around building a self-care plan. Movement is woven into the self-care plan. Nutrition management also kind of woven into the plan too. I try and encourage my clients, and this is maybe relevant for anyone watching too, to create a more days than not approach, because we got to realize we're all busy living and trying. So there's not always room to like do what we wish we could do every single day without having to give up something else that's maybe just as valuable. So I want to like respect that's the experience most folks are going through. So what I recommend is having a more days than not approach, which is essentially where you are spending at least 4 days out of 7 practicing your coping tools tools and techniques. For my clients, I created a self-care planner where they can essentially document and have all their stuff in one spot just because it's orderly. Plus the data, the more you write stuff down, the more you can actually see your own patterns. So it's so crucial and valuable to just have space to see what's working for yourself and what's not working with more clarity. So I agree with you 100% about get a plan, make space to practice, and then, follow that check-in system.
I also follow up with that. I think because a lot of us are working from home, right, and being virtual, it's almost like before we had more of a routine, right? Now it's I wake up in my PJs, I go to sleep in my PJs, and I probably had these PJs on for the past 3 days, especially by myself. So having my clients talk about being more intentional, in the morning, before, when you were getting up, leaving the house, what did you do before? Well, I got up, I brushed my teeth, I took a shower, I, read the paper, or I journaled before I left, and that started me on my day. Then we need to go back to implementing those same strategies. Having that time for yourself in the mornings, during the day is really good, as well as at night. I think that's super important too. You have to have a cutoff time. Work it's easy now. You don't have a physical differentiator for, okay, this is work and this is home, because now it's all together, and you don't cut off, you just keep going. Oh, I can just check that email, or oh, I can just need to respond to this person.
I'm so bad about that. Ooh, I'm so bad about that. Listen, sending emails at 11 o'clock at night, knowing that I'm off work.
Yeah, this is a real experience. I don't think anyone is free of, there is no special person who's exempt from having the behaviors that you just said. I relate to that strongly. I don't want to be on email like you said, but I sometimes be on email like you said.
Absolutely. And I think those are, like you said, those are opportunities where we're missing pouring into ourselves, and we're continuously pulling from ourselves. We're depleting ourselves, and our cup is more staying in empty than on full, because of those things. And then that can spiral into, okay, I don't even want to get up today to go to work. Okay, now it's starting to turn into
that burnout.
Yeah, definitely. And it leads to that. I kind of want to go back to, if I was trying to put myself in, if I'm watching and I truly want to know, what is sadness and then what is depression? One thing I know that we said was if it has to be for an extended period of time. But what else? What are some other things for people who are trying to determine which one am I? Am I sad? Am I depressed? And then when should I seek help? That's a really good one. I see that one a lot in our DMs. Should I be going to a therapist right now?
That makes me think of the part you just asked makes me think specifically about how equipped are you to manage your feelings, your emotions. So to me, sad is okay, I am disappointed. Something didn't go the way I was hoping it would, or I didn't, do something I was hoping I would do, or what have you. But the other part that may be happening if it's just sadness is that secondary conversation of, well, I'll try again tomorrow, the balance piece, or let me call a friend and talk through this so I can chill. The recovery piece is automatically kind of generating because you're able to tolerate the emotion. So to me, it starts to veer into depression when you are no longer able to tolerate the emotion and you have life still continuing to need to be attended. So you're depressed potentially because the emotion is lingering, it's not getting better, it's not changing, and there is no reflexive component that's saying this is how we're going to balance ourselves back out, if that makes sense. So to me, it stands out as depression more if there's no coping system in play, and also feeling like it's not improving.
No, I agree with everything you just said. And then just piggybacking off of that, if it's starting to impact you socially or your occupational, so you being able to go to work, you're withdrawing, you're not answering phone calls, and again, like you said, it's lingering, then that's when we're starting to veer over into depression. And to answer your second question, I'm just, as a therapist, I believe all great therapists have therapists. therapist. Everyone should be going to therapy. Like, there's no big, crazy event that had to happen to you for you to say, I need to go talk to someone. And I really want to normalize that. We build up. We have so much impact in that. We see so much on social media. Like, we're fed like all of this like stuff as far as like what we've seen this year, like racial injustice. Like, we're fed this and it's impacting us whether you see it or not. Your relationship with your parents, or you've been in maybe unhealthy friendships, intimate partner relationships, like all of that impacts you. So it's always good to be able to have a safe space to like decompress, to be able to sort out your thoughts and your feelings, and to really, if you're having all these issues, to be able to work through it with someone that you trust. Like, we always feel like we have to have a mask on, especially Black women. Like, we just gotta be okay, and everything has to be okay. And I'm sick of it.
COVID.
Take your mask off. I mean, yeah, keep your mask off for COVID, but not so literal. Okay. Emotional mask of being able. I like what you did there. Just think about like a masquerade ball, like having a mask on, no one knowing who you are. Like, people, you perceive like on social media that you're great and you're fine and you're selling all of this and you're achieving this and you're doing this, but inside you're breaking. So it's like you need a safe place to be able to be vulnerable, to be transparent, and to just show up authentically for yourself and to the world.
I was looking at a show, I think it's been about a couple weeks ago, and it was a Black woman, and she was talking, I think she was experiencing some depression, right? But for her children, she put on a happy face, right? Everything was good. And when it was time for her to go in her bed, she closed the door, turned off all the lights, and literally like balled up, right? I thought that it was a really good depiction of how we as Black women can experience some of that depression, but then not even give ourselves a chance because we're trying to show up as like, I can take on the world, right?
Superwoman, yes.
Yeah, definitely that superwoman complex. And then even I was thinking about it in another perspective. What are you teaching your daughter? It's a learned behavior. We watched our grandmother, our mother do it, right?
And did.
Then we don't have those tools because, okay, we never, like how you were saying before, Brandi, like nobody even used the word depression around me. What are you talking about? Because could be because we don't want to talk about it because it makes us feel less than or stigmatized. Oh, you're weak. If you talk about depression, you're weak, or did you not pray about it? Did you not talk to God about it? And God didn't fix it for you. And so then we have all of these things that we're fighting on top of what we're feeling that we could be possibly going through at work or in our relationships or whatever, and then not truly being able to process that and be able to learn those coping skills, right? Truly feel your feelings and then learn those coping skills of like Brandi said, how can I bounce back from this? I don't have those skills, so I don't know how to bounce back because no one ever showed me.
That makes me think of push through culture. I think we've all heard that term before, like, I just got to push through. You probably heard this in this session, right? So like the value to me of just like letting that be clear, that push through culture, like the I just got to push through concept is a lie. Like, you don't have to just push through. We actually want to slow ourselves down and first identify that I don't feel good. I don't feel good and I want to feel better. And to me, it sounds like when this comes up in session that folks expect this to be it. Like, this is it. I'm just gonna be depressed and I'm gonna keep working and being a mom and doing all the things. And one day, hopefully it gets better. But if we can slow ourselves down, I think we can have the benefit of actually like creating the path back out of feeling, stress or overwhelm or like the sensation of depression, not being able to achieve what you want to achieve, not being able to have the space or flexibility that you feel is warranted or needed. So what you said just stood out to me as like, I pulled up a few sessions as you were saying that, like where I just got to push through into the space. And I was like, wait, right. Let's talk about it.
Anything that you wanted to add to this that you think is good takeaway from this conversation? I know we kind of talked about a lot of different things, but I really wanted people to be clear on what the difference is between sadness and depression is. Like you said, we all experience some sadness sometimes. Like you said, I may have lost my favorite pen, my puppy died or something like that, or different things, but it's different than depression. Depression looks a little bit different. So what are some other takeaways that that people can get from this? Like if they don't learn anything else from this chat, what is something that you want them to know about depression, especially during the winter months? Not only during the winter months, but also in the Black community.
That more so, it's okay to not be okay. And I think we just get really caught up in like, we have to be okay all the time, especially us as Black women, and we have to be productive and we have to take care of everyone. Like, it's okay to put yourself first. No is a complete sentence. You cannot pour from an empty well. I'm sure you guys have heard this analogy a plethora of times, where when you're on the plane, they tell you to put your mask on first before you can help anyone or save anyone else. So especially to my Black mothers, put your mask on first. Like, you can't be what you need for your child or your husband or your friends if you're not taking care of yourself first. So just being able to recognize if you are feeling like, I'm not feeling like myself, I'm always down, I don't like to do the things that I used to love to do, I'm oversleeping, undersleeping, I'm even having suicidal ideations, I'm feeling like I don't even want to wake up tomorrow. These are signs that you need to check in with a true mental health professional. And it doesn't mean you're crazy. Everyone should be checking in with a mental health professional, but that does not mean you're crazy. But it's okay to get help. Like, you don't have to do it on your own.
That is marvelous. I agree. And I would just say the only thing I would add that would go with what you just said is it's important to be honest with yourself. It's easy to lie to ourselves. Can we be real? Like, it's easy to just tell ourselves whatever we want to tell ourselves to keep it moving. And if we could just take a moment to be honest and be like, hey, girl, you all right? No. Then it's better to like be real with where you're at so you can get where you're trying to go, versus Band-Aid approach where we're just got all these Band-Aids all over ourselves and we're trying to move forward, but we're not getting anything done because the Band-Aids aren't actually fixing anything, right? So I just want to encourage that we practice self-honesty and really hold space and trust that it's okay to not be okay, as DeAvila said, so that way we can get to being okay again.
And one thing that I do want to piggyback on that you said, that you brought up about the suicidal ideations, I do think that's something that we totally skipped over, right, to talk about that. And that definitely is something serious. You definitely should seek out some assistance, some mental health, a professional assistance with that if you are experiencing that. And for anybody who has family members or somebody that has told you that, it is super important that you reach out to someone and say, hey, they're having these thoughts and they brought that up to me, because that is something that could definitely save their lives. If they, were open enough to reach out to you. You're seeing it more. It's on the rise now, especially with COVID. I have to stay in the house and I'm alone in this house, or I am lonely. And those things start coming up, and it's just a lot. It's a lot. I mean, we can go a bunch of different ways talking about trauma or maybe an abuse or anything like that. But definitely, I think one thing I want people to know is definitely reach out. And like you said, both of you ladies said, it's not that we're having this conversation so that you know that it's not negative that you reach out to a therapist. It's not horrible. It doesn't mean that you're less than if you reach out for help. It's okay. You don't have to have all the answers, It's okay that you lean on us. That's why we're here, and then I get to lean on these ladies. Once you lean on me, then I'm leaning on you guys, because I do believe a therapist should have a therapist, but that's something else, right? I think to even take that, a lot of people think therapists have all the answers. Actually, we're just like you, and we need help just like you, And I'm not afraid to say that, yeah, I'm a therapist and I don't have all the answers. I go and talk to my therapist and I'm like, okay, listen, even though she knows, she probably like, well, Amber, you have the answers. Maybe I do, but I don't. So help me.
Right. You can't be your own therapist.
I can't. Okay. Help me.
I love having a therapist. So I think it's kind of a good way to catch our own blind spots and keep ourselves in a good space to provide to our clients. So I would be worried if I didn't have a therapist, honestly. Like, it's good to have that second opinion. So I'm just saying this to normalize how valuable it is to like have another person that is holding space for you, not judging you, and helping you process your own emotional thoughts, where you essentially are providing the outcomes and answers, but they can help you. If you want help, they will help you.
Absolutely. 110%. Well, thank you ladies so much for joining me. Again, let people know how they can find you. Where are you on social media? And if I want to connect with you, how do I do that?
I'm on Instagram, and our Facebook fan page is 𝐾𝐨𝐧'𝐭, and it has my business email in there. So if anyone is in Tennessee, Texas, or Arkansas, and you're looking for a mental health therapist, I'm your girl. So yeah, 𝐾𝐨𝐧'𝐭, and my website is 𝐾𝐨𝐧'𝐭.com.
I'm Brandi Jackson Wellness, so on Instagram, on YouTube, and I have a Facebook, but I don't do too much with it. So if you're looking for me, you can find me on the website or Instagram primarily, and on YouTube. And I am based in California, licensed LCSW in California. So if anyone from that neck of the woods is looking for support, then hit me up. Of course, I do wellness coaching too, so I can work with folks throughout the nation as well.
Thank you again, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.